Welcome again to the Grand Old Players. My name's Mark Manhart,
And I'm Bonnie Hill.
and today we're going to talk and discuss the Matchmaker play.
By Thornton Wilder. It was originally The Merchant of Yonkers back in 1938, and they rewrote it, and this was the 1950s version of that play, which later became the source for Hello Dolly. So this is kind of like we always thought of it as the non-musical version of Hello Dolly. Having a small community theater, it was a challenge to be able to compete with other theaters
Yeah.
with music. So this was a nice way that we were able to afford a really good story, one that a lot of people were familiar with, and yet not have to pay the big royalties that you would pay with a musical.
And we found a really good director for the play in Tim Saragusa.
Yeah, Tim is an Omaha artist who's actually an actor, a
Yeah.
playwright, a director,
And
a theater critic,
and a businessman.
and even an artist. He has a physical art shop down in the hot shops, but he's really an all-around talent. And I thought it was Mark and I had the vision that this would be set like in the early 1900s with the big hats and everything, but he took it and he set it in the 1970s with bell bottoms and psychedelic, and it was really rather clever, I thought.
And when we were about to open the show,
oh yes, we had the good fortune to work with Lynn Rothman. She's actually a woman who was living in Omaha for about 7 years when her husband's business brought her here. But she actually trained in New York with Dustin Hoffman and Diane Keaton. Yeah, they all worked under Stella Adler.
Well, Tim got the whole thing all ready to open, and Lynn had an emergency.
Who was playing Mrs. Levi? Yes, she had a family emergency.
Had to go. Couldn't change this. So Tim grabbed a couple dresses and he played Mrs. Levi,
which was a real fun opening.
Yeah,
got a lot of buzz in town. Another fellow that was in this play played Horace Van Gelder, the lead role, was Keith Holman, and he was quite an actor that did theater all over town, and
he did it until the day he died.
Yeah. One of the things he did towards the end that he was really pleased about, it was a personal thing he wanted to play in the Crucible, and he did that at the Omaha Community Playhouse,
which is a big theater.
We're very fortunate in Omaha. We have probably over a dozen community theaters. The Omaha Community Playhouse is the largest one, and
the Rose
is the children's theater, and because of the Playhouse and the Rose, and then we have two universities, UNO and Creighton, that offer theater classes. So we have a big pool in Omaha of actors and backstage people.
Part of that pool was Helen Traverti. She did all kinds of roles. One time she directed a show, and just to show you how smart she was, I played the butler. Well, what kind of a part is that? And she took me aside and said, Mark, I want you to do this. You have 12 entrances and 12 exits of the show, and I want to see a new butler every time. And it made that role just exciting. So she was such a director.
Yeah, in our theater, we had, because it was a community theater and because we weren't a repertoire company and we were working with older people who had never been on stage, a lot of times, some of them had a lot of experience, like Helen, and then others would have no experience. And that was a fun way to make cameo roles and get somebody comfortable with being up in front of people. Helen was the epitome of there are no small parts.
Only small
because
actors.
Helen was very accomplished, and Tim had this idea back to the Matchmaker, which we started to talk about. He had this idea that he wanted this non-speaking role. The two clerks in Ben Gilder's
yeah, the
Cornelius
guys. Yeah.
and Barnaby. The two clerks were the kind of the comic relief in this show. Well, Tim had the idea he wanted to have Helen, who's a little old white-haired 80-year-old woman dragging a huge trunk along with the clerks throughout this show. And those are the kind of things that the Grand Ole Players got to be noted for.
Well, one person that was a director for us late in his career was Charles Jones from the Omaha Playhouse in that fantastic Christmas show, Christmas Carol. And that was good to have him see his experience light up the stage. Well, match up with theater. Be a matchmaker and match up with older players in your town. Mark Manhart here.
And don't forget, always support live theater.
Yes.
Bonnie Gill. See you next time.